Indicators of development, physical quality of life index and human development index. Development is a multifaceted concept that encompasses economic, social, political, and environmental dimensions. To measure the progress of nations and regions, a variety of indicators are employed. Among the most significant of these are the physical quality of life index (PQLI) and the human development index (HDI). These indices are designed to assess human well-being beyond traditional economic measures like GDP, incorporating factors such as health, education, and living standards. 1. Physical quality of life index (PQLI). The physical quality of life index (PQLI) was developed by M.A.K. Lodai in 1979. It is a composite index that combines indicators of health and education to measure the quality of life in a given country or region. The primary purpose of PQLI is to provide a more holistic measure of development that goes beyond economic output. Components of PQLI. PQLI consists of three basic components, each representing a different aspect of human development. Life expectancy at age 1. This is a key indicator of a country's health status. It refers to the average number of years a person is expected to live, starting from the age of 1 year. It is used as a proxy for the overall healthcare system, sanitation, and nutrition in a country. Infant mortality rate. This is the number of deaths of infants under 1 year of age per 1,000 live births. A lower infant mortality rate indicates better healthcare facilities, maternal care, and general living conditions. Basic literacy rate. This is the percentage of the population that is able to read and write at a specified age, usually 15 years and above. It reflects the educational standards and access to education in the country. Each of these indicators is normalized on a scale of 0 to 100, and the average of the three scores is calculated to arrive at the overall PQLI. Interpretation of PQLI. A PQLI score closer to 100 indicates a high quality of life and overall well-being, while a lower score suggests that there are deficiencies in healthcare, education, or living conditions. PQLI offers a broader view of development by including measures of physical well-being and educational access, rather than just focusing on economic metrics. Limitations of PQLI. Lack of economic dimension. PQLI does not directly consider income or economic wealth, which are essential drivers of development. As such, it may overlook disparities in wealth within a population. No consideration of inequality. PQLI treats the country as a whole and does not address regional or income inequalities, which can mask disparities in quality of life. Limited indicators. The index only includes 3 indicators, which may not capture the full range of factors influencing development. 2. Human Development Index (HDI). The Human Development Index (HDI), developed by the United Nations Development Program (UNDP) in 1990, is a more comprehensive measure of human development than PQLI. HDI takes into account a broader spectrum of factors and aims to provide a more nuanced picture of human well-being. Components of HDI. HDI is based on 3 key dimensions. Health life expectancy. Life expectancy at birth is used as a measure of a population's health. A higher life expectancy generally correlates with better healthcare, sanitation, and nutrition. Education. Mean years of schooling and expected years of schooling. Mean years of schooling. This measures the average number of years of schooling received by adults aged 25 and older. It reflects the country's educational infrastructure and the level of education attained by its adult population. Expected years of schooling. This measures the number of years of schooling a child of school entry age is expected to receive, assuming the age-specific enrollment ratios stay the same throughout the child's life. Standard of living. Gross national income per capita. The HDI uses GNI per capita adjusted for purchasing power parity, or PPP, as a proxy for the standard of living. This component takes into account income levels and their distribution, adjusting for the relative cost of living and inflation in different countries. Each dimension is scored between 0 and 1. The HDI is then calculated by Standard of living. Gross national income per capita. The HDI uses GNI per capita adjusted for purchasing power parity, or PPP, as a proxy for the standard of living. This component takes into account income levels and their distribution, adjusting for the relative cost of living and inflation in different countries. Each dimension is scored between 0 and 1. The HDI is then calculated by taking the geometric mean of the normalized scores for each of the 3 dimensions. Interpretation of HDI. The HDI score ranges from 0 to 1. A score closer to 1 indicates a higher level of human development, signifying better living conditions, higher levels of education, and improved health outcomes. HDI provides a broader perspective on development, considering both economic and non-economic factors such as education and health. Categories of HDI. Based on HDI scores, countries are categorized into 4 groups. Very high human development, 0.8 and above. High human development, 0.7 to 0.799. Medium human development, 0.55 to 0.699. Low human development, below 0.55. Limitations of HDI. Income inequality. HDI does not account for the distribution of income. A country with high income inequality can have a high HDI despite significant disparities in living standards. Exclusion of environmental factors. HDI does not take into account environmental sustainability, which is becoming an increasingly important aspect of development. Cultural and social factors. While HDI includes education and health, it does not directly measure other aspects of human development, such as political freedom, security, and cultural aspects. Comparing PQLI and HDI. Both the physical quality of life index (PQLI) and the human development index (HDI) aim to measure the overall well-being of a population, but they differ in scope and methodology. PQLI is more focused on basic human needs, health and education, and provides a snapshot of physical quality of life, whereas HDI is a broader measure that incorporates economic factors, income, along with health and education. PQLI uses only 3 indicators, while HDI includes multiple dimensions of development, education, income, health. HDI, by including income, offers a better understanding of how economic development contributes to human development, while PQLI may underestimate the role of income in overall quality of life. Previous year questions. Explain the concept of human development index (HDI) and discuss its components. How is it useful in measuring the development of a country? Answer. HDI is a composite index that measures development based on health, education, and standard of living. Its components include life expectancy, mean years of schooling, expected years of schooling, and GNI per capita. HDI provides a broader understanding of development than economic indicators alone. CAS 2019. What is the physical quality of life index (PQLI)? Discuss its limitations in assessing development. Answer. PQLI is a composite index measuring life expectancy, infant mortality, and literacy. While it provides valuable insight into basic quality of life, its limitations include the exclusion of economic factors and inequality within the population. CAS 2017. How does the HDI help in understanding the human development status of a nation? Illustrate with examples. Answer. HDI is a comprehensive measure that takes into account life expectancy, education, and income. Countries with higher HDI scores generally have better healthcare, education systems, and living standards. For example, countries like Norway and Switzerland rank high on the HDI scale. CAS 2018. You said. Human Poverty Index, Gender Development Index, National Happiness Index. ChatGPT said. Human Poverty Index (HDI), Gender Development Index (GDI), and National Happiness Index. In addition to the more commonly known development indices like the Human Development Index (HDI), there are other important measures that provide further insights into the social, economic, and psychological dimensions of human development. These include the Human Poverty Index (HPI), the Gender Development Index (GDI), and the National Happiness Index. Each of these indices focuses on a unique aspect of development, providing a more holistic and inclusive view of societal well-being. 1. Human Poverty Index (HPI). The Human Poverty Index (HPI) was introduced by the United Nations Development Program (UNDP) in 1997 as a complementary indicator to the Human Development Index (HDI). While HDI measures overall development by focusing on income, education, and life expectancy, the HPI is designed to specifically assess the level of deprivation or poverty that people face, providing a more nuanced understanding of poverty beyond near income levels. Components of HPI. The HPI was originally developed in 2 forms. HPI 1 for developing countries. HPI 2 for developed countries. HPI 1 includes the following indicators. Probability at birth of not surviving to age 40. This indicator reflects health poverty, focusing on the risk of premature death due to inadequate healthcare and living conditions. Adult literacy rate. This measures the percentage of the adult population that cannot read or write, serving as a proxy for educational deprivation. Access to safe water. The lack of access to clean and safe drinking water is a key indicator of material poverty. Child malnutrition. This assesses the percentage of children under age 5 who are underweight, providing an insight into food insecurity and health-related poverty. The HPI 2, used in more developed countries, typically includes indicators like long-term unemployment rate, Income poverty below a certain threshold. Educational deprivation. Interpretation of HPI. A higher HPI value indicates higher levels of human poverty in a given country or region. It highlights the multidimensional nature of poverty, recognizing that economic deprivation alone does not fully capture the extent of human poverty. Countries with low levels of human development but high levels of inequality or deprivation may appear poorer in the HPI compared to the HDI. Limitations of HPI. Limited to basic deprivation. The HPI does not consider broader factors of social or economic inequality, such as wealth distribution or quality of life beyond health and education. Overlooks subjective poverty. It does not account for subjective experiences of poverty, such as social exclusion or lack of political voice. 2. Gender Development Index (GDI). The Gender Development Index (GDI) is a measure that is used to highlight gender inequality in human development. The GDI was introduced by the United Nations Development Programme (UNDP) to examine the disparity between men and women in terms of human development achievements, and it is closely related to the Human Development Index (HDI). Components of GDI. The GDI is calculated by adjusting the HDI for gender disparities in 3 dimensions. Health life expectancy at birth life expectancy is measured separately for men and women, and the gender gap is considered in the calculation. Education mean years of schooling and expected years of schooling. The gender gap in educational attainment, both in terms of years of schooling and enrollment rates, is assessed. Standard of living gross national income per capita (GNI) per capita is calculated for both men and women, and the disparity in income levels between genders is considered. The GDI uses the same methodology as the HDI but makes adjustments for gender disparities. The GDI is expressed as a ratio of the female HDI to the male HDI, with a value of 1 indicating no gender disparity. Interpretation of GDI. A higher GDI indicates less gender disparity in human development. If the GDI score is equal to the HDI score, it suggests no gender disparity in development. If the GDI score is significantly lower than the HDI score, it implies that women are relatively disadvantaged compared to men in terms of health, education, and income. Limitations of GDI. Simplified measurement. GDI provides a simplified view of gender inequality and may not capture the complexities of gender issues, such as gender-based violence, discrimination, or cultural factors. Excludes other dimensions. GDI focuses on basic human development measures and may not account for broader aspects of gender equality, such as political empowerment or legal rights. 3. National Happiness Index. The National Happiness Index is a relatively newer concept in the field of development measurement. It reflects a country's overall happiness and well-being of its citizens. Bhutan is famously known for adopting the concept of gross national happiness (GNH) as an alternative to GDP as the primary measure of national success. Other countries have followed suit by developing their own happiness indices, with the World Happiness Report being one of the most recognized global assessments. Components of the National Happiness Index. Different countries may define and measure happiness in slightly different ways, but the most commonly included factors in the National Happiness Index are economic factors. Income, although not the sole determinant, income is considered as an important aspect of individual happiness, with a focus on financial security and living standards. Social support. Strong social networks, community support, and a sense of belonging contribute to overall well-being and happiness. Life expectancy and health. Physical and mental health are vital components of happiness, and countries with better healthcare systems and longevity tend to score higher in happiness rankings. Freedom to make life choices. The freedom individuals have to make personal and professional decisions is a critical component of happiness. Generosity. Acts of kindness, generosity, and social cooperation contribute to higher happiness levels in societies. Corruption and trust. The level of trust in government institutions and the absence of corruption are significant factors affecting societal happiness. The World Happiness Report, published by the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network (SDSN), ranks countries on a scale of 0 to 10 based on the above factors. Interpretation of the National Happiness Index. A higher happiness score indicates that people in a country generally report higher levels of subjective well-being, life satisfaction, and positive social conditions. Countries with higher happiness scores typically have robust healthcare systems, strong social support networks, economic stability, and good governance. Limitations of the National Happiness Index. Subjective nature. Happiness is inherently subjective, and what makes one person happy may not have the same effect on others. Thus, measuring happiness can be influenced by individual perceptions, cultural values, and expectations. Cultural bias. Different cultural norms and expectations may influence how happiness is understood and reported across countries. Previous year questions. What is the Human Poverty Index (HPI) and how does it differ from the Human Development Index (HDI)? Discuss its significance in measuring poverty. Answer. The Human Poverty Index (HPI) is designed to assess multidimensional poverty, including health, education, and basic living conditions. Unlike HDI, which focuses on achievements, HPI measures deprivation in these areas. CAS 2020. Explain the Gender Development Index (GDI) and its significance in measuring gender equality in human development. Answer. The Gender Development Index (GDI) measures the disparity between male and female development in terms of health, education, and income. It highlights gender inequality in a country and provides insight into the state of gender equity. CAS 2018. What are the key components of the National Happiness Index, and how does it reflect the well-being of a country's population? Answer. The National Happiness Index includes factors such as income, social support, life expectancy, freedom to make choices, generosity, and trust in government. It reflects the subjective well-being of a nation's citizens and the overall quality of life. CAS 2019. You said. Indian public finance, government budgeting, Indian tax system, public expenditure, public debt, deficit and subsidies in the Indian economy. ChatGPT said. Indian public finance, government budgeting, Indian tax system, public expenditure, public debt, deficit and subsidies in the Indian economy. Public finance plays a crucial role in the economic development of any country, as it deals with the management of public revenue, expenditure, and debt. In India, public finance is a critical area that impacts economic policy, governance, and the allocation of resources. The various components of Indian public finance include government budgeting, taxation, public expenditure, public debt, fiscal deficits, and subsidies. These elements collectively determine the financial health of the government and influence overall economic growth. 1. Indian public finance. Public finance refers to the study of the role of the government in the economy, specifically how the government raises and spends funds to support economic growth and development. In India, public finance is crucial for financing public goods and services, infrastructure development, and social welfare programs. Key areas of Indian public finance. Revenue generation. The government generates revenue through taxes, fees, and other sources like public sector profits, foreign aid, and borrowing. Public expenditure. The government allocates revenue for various purposes like defense, infrastructure, health, education, and social welfare. Fiscal deficits. The fiscal deficit is the difference between the government's total expenditure and its total revenue, excluding borrowings. A high fiscal deficit indicates that the government is borrowing heavily to finance its spending. Public debt. The government borrows from domestic and international markets to finance its deficits. The level of public debt is an important indicator of fiscal health. 2. Government budgeting. The government budget is an annual financial statement that outlines the government's planned revenue and expenditure for the upcoming fiscal year. It is a critical tool for economic policy and governance. Types of budgets. Revenue budget. This includes the government's receipts, taxes, non-tax revenues, and the expenditure on day-to-day activities, salaries, subsidies, interest payments. Capital budget. This outlines the expenditure on long-term investments like infrastructure development and receipts from loans or the sale of assets. Budget process in India. The Union Budget is presented by the Finance Minister of India, usually on February 1st each year. The budget speech includes a breakdown of the allocation of funds for different sectors, e.g., defense, education, infrastructure, health. After the presentation, the budget is discussed in the Parliament, where it is debated and amended before being passed. Key budget terminology. Surplus budget, when the government's revenue exceeds its expenditure. Deficit budget, when the government's expenditure exceeds its revenue, necessitating borrowing. Balanced budget, when the government's revenue equals its expenditure. 3. Indian tax system. The Indian tax system is structured to generate revenue for the government to fund various public services and infrastructure. The tax system is divided into 2 main categories: direct taxes and indirect taxes. Direct taxes. These are taxes directly levied on individuals and entities, such as income tax, levied on individual and corporate income, progressive in nature, higher income, higher tax. Corporate tax, imposed on companies' profits. Wealth tax, tax on the net wealth of an individual or company, though this tax was abolished in 2015. Indirect taxes. These are taxes levied on goods and services, which are paid indirectly by consumers. Goods and services tax (GST), a comprehensive indirect tax that replaces multiple taxes like VAT, service tax, and excise duty, aiming to create a single unified market. Customs duty, tax on imported goods. Excise duty, levied on the production of goods. Tax reforms. India has undergone significant tax reforms over the years, including the implementation of GST in 2017, which aimed at simplifying the tax structure and improving compliance. The Income Tax Act, 1961, governs direct taxation in India. 4. Public expenditure. Public expenditure refers to the government spending on goods, services, and welfare programs. It includes both capital and revenue expenditures, and its primary objectives are to improve infrastructure, healthcare, education, defense, and social welfare. Types of public expenditure. Revenue expenditure, spending on routine operations and services like salaries, subsidies, and interest payments. These are recurring expenses. Capital expenditure, spending on long-term projects like infrastructure, machinery, and development programs. These are investments that help in future growth. Challenges in public expenditure. Inefficiency, misallocation and inefficiency in spending can reduce the effectiveness of public expenditure. Rising subsidies, particularly in sectors like food, fuel, and fertilizers, often create a financial burden and distort market signals. Inflationary pressure, excessive public spending can lead to inflationary pressures, which can undermine economic stability. 5. Public debt. Public debt refers to the borrowing by the government to meet its expenditure when revenue is insufficient. It includes both domestic debt borrowed from within the country and external debt borrowed from foreign sources. Types of public debt. Internal debt, borrowing from domestic banks, financial institutions, and the public, e.g., through government bonds. External debt, borrowing from foreign governments, international organizations like the World Bank, or foreign financial institutions. Managing public debt. The government borrows through treasury bills, bonds, and loans to meet its fiscal deficit. A high level of public debt can be dangerous, as it may lead to higher interest payments, reducing the funds available for other developmental activities. 6. Deficit. A deficit occurs when a government's total expenditure exceeds its total revenue. In India, there are several types of deficits that are used to assess fiscal health. Types of deficits. Fiscal deficit, the difference between the government's total expenditure and its total revenue, excluding borrowings. It indicates the total borrowing requirements of the government. Revenue deficit, the difference between the government's revenue expenditure and its revenue receipts. It indicates that the government is borrowing to meet its regular, non-investment expenditures. Primary deficit, fiscal deficit minus interest payments. It indicates the government's borrowing requirements excluding interest on past debt. Concerns with deficits. High deficits, persistent high deficits can lead to inflation, rising debt, and reduced investor confidence. Debt sustainability, a high fiscal deficit over time can lead to unsustainable public debt. 7. Subsidies in the Indian economy. Subsidies are financial assistance provided by the government to encourage production or consumption of certain goods and services. They are used to reduce the cost burden on consumers and promote social welfare. Types of subsidies. Food subsidies. Under schemes like the Public Distribution System (PDS), the government provides subsidized food grains to the poor. Fertilizer subsidies. To ensure that fertilizers are affordable for farmers, the government provides subsidies on fertilizers. Fuel subsidies. The government provides subsidies on petroleum products like LPG, kerosene, and diesel to keep prices affordable for low-income groups. Challenges with subsidies. Fiscal burden. Subsidies contribute significantly to the fiscal deficit. In India, subsidies on food, fuel, and fertilizers consume a large portion of the budget. Inefficiency. Subsidies often do not reach the intended beneficiaries and can distort market incentives. Targeting issues. Ineffective targeting of subsidies can lead to misuse and leakages, particularly in large programs like PDS. Previous year questions. Discuss the structure of the Indian tax system. How has the introduction of GST improved the tax regime? Answer. The Indian tax system is a combination of direct and indirect taxes, with major reforms like GST aimed at creating a single unified market, reducing tax evasion, and simplifying compliance. CAS 2020. What are the major sources of public revenue in India? How does the government manage public debt? Answer. Major sources of public revenue include taxes, loans, and non-tax revenues. Public debt is managed through government borrowing, issuance of bonds, and loans from international institutions. CAS 2019. Explain the concept of fiscal deficit and revenue deficit. Why are they important in measuring the health of the Indian economy? Answer. Fiscal deficit represents the total borrowing requirements of the government, while revenue deficit indicates the shortfall in the government's revenue to meet its day-to-day expenditure. High deficits can indicate financial stress and require corrective measures. CAS 2018. You said. Center-state financial relation. Recent fiscal and monetary policy issues and their impact. Structure of Indian banking and non-banking financial institutions and reforms. ChatGPT said. Center-state financial relations. Recent fiscal and monetary policy issues and their impact. Structure of Indian banking and non-banking financial institutions and reforms. India's economic structure relies on the effective management of its financial relations, particularly between the center and the states. Understanding this financial relationship, along with the monetary and fiscal policy issues, is critical for comprehending the overall functioning of the Indian economy. Additionally, the structure of Indian banking and non-banking financial institutions, along with the financial reforms in India, is vital for fostering economic growth, stability, and inclusivity. 1. Center-state financial relation. Answer. Fiscal deficit represents the total borrowing requirements of the government, while revenue deficit indicates the shortfall in the government's revenue to meet its day-to-day expenditure. High deficits can indicate financial stress and require corrective measures. CAS 2018. You said. Center-state financial relation. Recent fiscal and monetary policy issues and their impact. Structure of Indian banking and non-banking financial institutions and reforms. ChatGPT said. Center-state financial relations. Recent fiscal and monetary policy issues and their impact. Structure of Indian banking and non-banking financial institutions and reforms. India's economic structure relies on the effective management of its financial relations, particularly between the center and the states. Understanding this financial relationship, along with the monetary and fiscal policy issues, is critical for comprehending the overall functioning of the Indian economy. Additionally, the structure of Indian banking and non-banking financial institutions, along with the financial reforms in India, is vital for fostering economic growth, stability, and inclusivity. 1. Center-state financial relations. The financial relationship between the center and the states in India is governed by the Constitution of India and several financial mechanisms like the Finance Commission, central and state budgets, and the Goods and Services Tax (GST) system. The distribution of fiscal powers, resources, and responsibilities is critical for balanced economic growth and governance. Key aspects of center-state financial relations: division of revenue. Taxes collected by the center. The center collects taxes like income tax, customs duty, and corporate tax. However, part of this revenue is transferred to the states through mechanisms like the Finance Commission and GST revenue sharing. Taxes collected by states. States levy taxes like sales tax, VAT prior to GST, stamp duty, and property taxes. With the implementation of GST, certain taxes previously collected by states, such as VAT and excise duty on goods, are now subsumed under a unified tax system. Finance Commission. The Finance Commission is a body established by the President every 5 years to determine the distribution of financial resources between the center and states. The Commission considers factors like population, economic disparities, and needs of the states to allocate resources equitably. Grants and aid. These are transfers from the center to the states to ensure that states with lower revenue generating capacity can still meet their financial requirements. These grants may be non-planned grants for specific purposes like relief from natural disasters or planned grants for developmental activities. Borrowing powers. States have limited powers to borrow money from the market. However, they can borrow from the center or with its approval. This is a key issue, especially when states face financial constraints due to inadequate revenue collection or excessive expenditure. Challenges in center-state financial relations. Fiscal imbalances. While the center enjoys more revenue generating capacity, the states often face revenue shortfalls, leading to fiscal imbalances. GST implementation. The transition to GST has created challenges, particularly in the initial years, as states lost control over some of their taxation powers. Dependency on central transfers. Many states are dependent on financial transfers from the center, which can reduce their fiscal autonomy. 2. Recent fiscal and monetary policy issues and their impact. Fiscal policy refers to the government's use of taxation and spending to influence the economy, while monetary policy is concerned with the control of the money supply and interest rates to stabilize the economy. Both policies have been central to managing India's economic challenges. Recent fiscal policy issues. Fiscal deficit. One of the major fiscal challenges in India has been controlling the fiscal deficit. The government has often struggled to balance expenditure with revenue, leading to an increased fiscal deficit. The fiscal deficit in India for the financial year 2023-24 was targeted at 6.4% of GDP, indicating a need for fiscal consolidation. Subsidies. The growing burden of subsidies on food, fuel, and fertilizers has been a key issue. The government has faced criticism for its inefficient subsidy distribution mechanisms, which often benefit the wrong sections of society and distort market prices. Public debt. The government's borrowing to meet fiscal deficits has raised concerns about the sustainability of public debt. Excessive borrowing could lead to higher interest payments, crowding out private investment and reducing the scope for developmental spending. GST implementation. The introduction of goods and services tax (GST) was a major fiscal policy reform, but it has faced challenges, including issues in the smooth implementation of tax rates, compliance, and compensation to states for revenue loss during the transition period. Recent monetary policy issues. Inflation. Controlling inflation has been one of the Reserve Bank of India (RBI's) key challenges. While inflation has been relatively under control in recent years, global inflationary pressures, e.g., due to crude oil prices, food prices continue to affect the Indian economy. The consumer price index (CPI) inflation rate has often exceeded the RBI's target range of 4%, leading to changes in monetary policy stance. Repo rate changes. The Reserve Bank of India (RBI) has been adjusting the repo rate to control inflation and stimulate or cool down the economy. Lowering the repo rate can encourage borrowing and investment, while raising it could curb inflationary pressures. Liquidity management. The RBI has faced the challenge of managing excess liquidity in the market due to various fiscal and monetary interventions, such as bond buying programs and relief packages during economic slowdowns like the COVID-19 pandemic. Impact of fiscal and monetary policy issues. Economic growth. Mismanagement of fiscal policy can lead to lower economic growth, reduced investor confidence, and fiscal crises. Monetary policy adjustments, such as lowering interest rates, can stimulate investment and consumption, boosting economic growth. Inflation control. Inflationary pressures can erode the purchasing power of consumers. Through monetary tightening, raising repo rates, the RBI aims to control inflation, but this can sometimes slow down economic growth. Employment and poverty. Fiscal policies targeting infrastructure development and social welfare can create jobs and reduce poverty. However, inconsistent fiscal management can delay public sector projects and hurt employment. 3. Structure of Indian banking and non-banking financial institutions and reforms. The Indian financial system is diverse, comprising banking institutions, both public and private, and non-banking financial institutions (NBFCs). These institutions are essential for economic growth, facilitating credit flow, investment, and capital formation. Indian banking structure. Scheduled commercial banks (SCBs). These banks include public sector banks (PSBs) like State Bank of India (SBI), private sector banks (PSBs) like the CC Bank, and foreign banks. PSBs play a dominant role in the financial system, while private banks are more efficient and have expanded rapidly in recent years. Regional rural banks (RRBs). These banks focus on rural development and provide credit to agriculture and rural sectors. Cooperative banks. These banks operate in rural areas and focus on providing financial assistance to farmers, cooperatives, and small businesses. Development banks. Institutions like IDBI Bank, a CC, and Citi that provide long-term finance to the industrial sector. Non-banking financial institutions (NBFCs). NBFCs are financial institutions that provide banking services without holding a banking license. They focus on sectors such as housing finance, insurance, pension funds, and microfinance. Types of NBFCs. Housing finance companies provide home loans. Microfinance institutions (MFIs) provide small loans to low-income individuals, particularly in rural areas. Insurance companies offer life, health, and general insurance services. Investment companies offer investment-related services like wealth management and portfolio management. Reforms in banking and financial institutions. Banking sector reforms. The banking sector in India has undergone significant reforms since the 1990s, such as liberalization of banking, privatization of some public sector banks, and improvements in governance and technology. Basel norms. Indian banks have adopted the Basel III capital adequacy norms, improving the capital structure and risk management frameworks. Financial inclusion. The Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana (PMJDY) has aimed at financial inclusion by providing banking services to the unbanked population. RBI's role. The Reserve Bank of India (RBI) regulates the banking sector, ensuring liquidity, stability, and control over inflation. The Financial Sector Legislative Reforms Commission (FSLRC) was set up to propose reforms for strengthening the Indian financial system. Non-banking financial reforms. NBFCs have been brought under stricter regulatory scrutiny by the RBI to improve transparency, reduce defaults, and protect consumers. This includes better governance, risk assessment, and liquidity management practices. Previous year questions. Discuss the fiscal relationship between the center and states in India. How does the Finance Commission allocate resources between them? Answer. The center-state financial relationship involves a complex system of revenue sharing, grants and aid, and borrowing powers. The Finance Commission allocates resources based on factors like population, backwardness, and fiscal capacity. CAS 2021. Explain the recent fiscal policy issues in India, particularly the impact of the fiscal deficit on economic growth. Answer. The fiscal deficit in India poses challenges like inflation, higher public debt, and limited scope for developmental expenditure. However, it is necessary to fund infrastructure projects and welfare schemes. CAS 2020. What are the main reforms in the Indian banking sector and their impact on financial inclusion? Answer. Key reforms like the introduction of Basel III norms, privatization of some public sector banks, and initiatives like PMJDY have improved access to banking services, particularly in rural and underserved areas. CAS 2019. You said. GST. Concept and implications. Stock exchange and share market. ChatGPT said. GST. Concept and implications. The goods and services tax (GST) is a comprehensive indirect tax levy on the supply of goods and services in India. It was introduced on the 1st of July 2017 with the aim of creating a unified tax structure across the country, replacing a multitude of central and state taxes such as VAT, excise duty, service tax, and others. GST is designed to streamline the tax structure, reduce tax evasion, and promote ease of doing business. Concept of GST. Single indirect tax. GST subsumes multiple indirect taxes levied by the center and state governments into one tax. These taxes include VAT, value-added tax, central excise duty, service tax, sales tax, etc. Destination-based tax. GST is a destination-based tax, meaning that the tax is levied at the point of consumption, not at the point of origin. This is unlike the earlier system where taxes were levied at various stages of production. Comprehensive coverage. It covers the entire supply chain, from manufacturing to consumption, including all stages of value addition in the process. Dual GST system. GST in India follows a dual system, meaning that both the central goods and services tax (CGST) and state goods and services tax (SGST) are levied on interstate transactions. For interstate transactions, the integrated goods and services tax (IGST) is levied. Structure of GST. CGST, central GST, levied by the central government on interstate supplies. SGST, state GST, levied by the state government on interstate supplies. IGST, integrated GST, levied on interstate supplies, administered by the central government. Implications of GST. Uniform tax system. By removing interstate tax barriers, GST ensures uniformity in tax rates and procedures across India, promoting national integration. Increased efficiency. GST is designed to remove cascading taxes, tax on tax, which reduces the final price of goods and services. This leads to a reduction in the overall cost of products, benefiting both consumers and producers. Boost to economy. The introduction of GST has simplified the tax structure, making it easier for businesses to operate across states. It has promoted the growth of the common national market, attracting more investments, particularly in sectors like logistics, warehousing, and e-commerce. Revenue neutrality. GST was designed to ensure that revenue generation is not adversely affected by the implementation of the new tax system. The GST Council regularly reviews the tax rate structure to ensure that states and the center continue to generate adequate revenue. Impact on small businesses. For small businesses with turnover below 40 lakh rupees, 20 lakh rupees for special category states, there is an option to opt for a composition scheme, which simplifies compliance with GST. Compliance and technological integration. The introduction of GST. Compliance and technological integration. The introduction of GST has led to significant technological advancements in the form of a GST portal that facilitates filing, compliance, and processing of tax returns. However, businesses, especially small ones, initially face challenges in adapting to the new system. Impact on prices. Although GST leads to lower taxes on many goods, certain items saw an increase in prices. For example, sectors like real estate and tobacco have faced higher tax rates post-GST. Anti-evasion measures. The GST system also uses invoice matching and electronic filing returns to reduce the scope for tax evasion. This is expected to increase compliance and improve the overall tax base. Stock exchange and share market. The stock exchange is a marketplace where securities such as stocks, bonds, and commodities are bought and sold. In India, the major stock exchanges are the National Stock Exchange (NSE) and the Bombay Stock Exchange (BSE). These exchanges play a crucial role in the financial system by providing a platform for the buying and selling of securities, thus facilitating investment and capital raising for companies. Concept of the stock exchange. Market for securities. A stock exchange is a regulated marketplace where buyers and sellers come together to trade financial instruments. This can include equities, stocks, debt instruments, bonds, derivatives, and more. Regulation. Stock exchanges in India are regulated by the Securities and Exchange Board of India (SEBI), which ensures transparency, fair practices, and investor protection. Stock market functionality. Primary market, new issues market. This is the market where companies raise capital by issuing new stocks and bonds. This process is known as an initial public offering (IPO), where companies offer their shares to the public for the first time. Secondary market. Stock exchange. Once the stocks are issued in the primary market, they are traded on the secondary market. This is the traditional stock market where investors buy and sell shares of publicly listed companies. Types of securities traded. Shares represent ownership in a company and entitle the holder to a share in the company's profits and assets. Bonds. Debt instruments issued by companies or governments that pay interest over a period of time. Derivatives. Contracts that derive their value from underlying assets like stocks, commodities, or interest rates. Common derivatives include options and futures. Stock market indices. BSE Sensex. This is the stock market index of 30 major companies listed on the Bombay Stock Exchange, representing a broad cross-section of the Indian economy. NSE Nifty. This is a stock market index comprising 50 companies listed on the National Stock Exchange, widely regarded as a benchmark for the performance of the Indian stock market. Market participants. Investors. Individuals or institutions that invest in securities with the aim of earning returns. Brokers. These are intermediaries who facilitate the buying and selling of securities for investors. They charge a commission for their services. Market makers. These are financial firms that buy and sell securities to maintain liquidity in the market. Regulators. Institutions like SEBI, which regulate the functioning of the stock exchange to ensure fairness, transparency, and investor protection. Types of orders in the stock market. Market order. An order to buy or sell a security immediately at the current market price. Limit order. An order to buy or sell a security at a specific price or better. Stop loss order. An order to sell a security when it reaches a certain price, aiming to limit losses in case the price moves unfavorably. Role of the stock exchange. Capital formation. The stock exchange provides a platform for companies to raise capital for expansion, research, and development through the issuance of shares and bonds. Liquidity. The stock market offers liquidity. Liquidity. The stock market offers liquidity, meaning that securities can be quickly bought or sold without affecting the price significantly. Price discovery. The stock market helps in discovering the price of securities based on supply and demand dynamics. Wealth creation. Investors in the stock market can earn returns on their investments through price appreciation and dividends, contributing to wealth creation. Risk sharing. Investors can diversify their portfolios by investing in different stocks and sectors, thus sharing and mitigating risk. Stock market volatility. Market risk. The stock market is inherently volatile, and investors face the risk of price fluctuations due to a range of factors such as economic conditions, corporate earnings, and global events. Speculation. Many investors engage in short-term trading and speculation, which can lead to greater price swings and volatility in the market. Stock market reforms. Dematerialization. The introduction of demat accounts has transformed the stock market, allowing investors to hold securities electronically instead of in physical certificates. SEBI's role. The Securities and Exchange Board of India (SEBI) has introduced several reforms to protect investors, such as mandating transparency, reducing insider trading, and ensuring the smooth functioning of the markets. Electronic trading. The shift to electronic trading has made it easier and faster for investors to trade securities, improving market efficiency and transparency. Previous year questions. Explain the concept of GST and its implications for the Indian economy. Answer. GST is a unified tax system designed to replace various indirect taxes. It aims to reduce the cascading effect of taxes, promote a single national market, and increase tax compliance. CAS 2020. Discuss the role of the stock exchange in the economic development of India. How does it contribute to capital formation and liquidity? Answer. The stock exchange provides a platform for companies to raise capital and for investors to buy and sell securities. It promotes liquidity, price discovery, and wealth creation, all of which contribute to economic development. CAS 2021. What are the major reforms introduced in the Indian stock market in recent years? Answer. Key reforms include dematerialization of securities, electronic trading systems, and the introduction of stringent regulations by SEBI to ensure transparency and protect investors. CAS 2019. You said. Trend, composition, structure, and direction of India's foreign trade. India's balance of payments situation in post-reforms period. ChatGPT said. India's foreign trade, trend, composition, structure, and direction. India's foreign trade has undergone a substantial transformation since independence, particularly after the 1991 economic liberalization reforms. The post-reform period marked a shift from a largely inward-looking, import substituting economy to an outward-oriented, globally integrated economy. The opening up of trade, investment, and finance sectors significantly impacted the trend, composition, structure, and direction of India's foreign trade. Trend of India's foreign trade post-1991 to present. Before 1991, India's foreign trade was limited, heavily regulated, and dominated by imports of essential goods. After liberalization, India's exports and imports both surged due to the relaxation of trade barriers, the devaluation of the rupee, and export promotion measures. India's total trade, exports plus imports, increased from around $63 billion in 1991 to over $1.3 trillion by 2023-24. Despite global challenges such as the 2008 financial crisis, COVID-19, and geopolitical tensions, India has emerged as a significant player in global trade. Notably, exports of services, especially IT and software services, have outpaced merchandise exports in growth. Trade openness, measured as a percentage of GDP, increased, reflecting India's growing integration with the world economy. Composition of foreign trade merchandise exports. Traditional goods. In the early decades, India's exports were dominated by primary products like jute, tea, coffee, and cotton textiles. Post-reform diversification, exports diversified to include engineering goods, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, petroleum products, and gems and jewelry. Recent focus, electronics, mobile phones, and machinery have emerged as new areas, supported by schemes like PLI production linked incentive. Merchandise imports. Essential imports, crude oil and petroleum remain the largest components due to India's high energy needs. Capital goods and raw materials, imports of machinery, electronic goods, gold, and industrial inputs are substantial. Defense and technology equipment, with strategic partnerships, high-tech defense and nuclear imports have grown. Services trade. A strong area for India, especially in IT, BPO, financial, consulting, and legal services. India enjoys a surplus in the services trade, which partially offsets the merchandise trade deficit. Structure of foreign trade. The structure has evolved from dependence on primary goods to value-added industrial and technology-based products. Trade is now more private sector-driven, with government playing a facilitated role through policies like the Foreign Trade Policy (FTP) SEZs, export incentives, and logistics infrastructure. Key features include reduced tariff barriers, export-import through special economic zones (SEZs), focus on regional trade agreements (RTAs) and bilateral trade deals, use of digital trade in e-commerce and exports. Direction of India's foreign trade. The direction of trade has shifted significantly. Pre-reform, trade was primarily with the Soviet bloc, the UK, and the USA. Post-reform, diversification toward Asian countries, Gulf nations, and African economies. Major export destinations now include USA, UAE, China, Bangladesh, Singapore, and the Netherlands. Major import sources include China, USA, UAE, Russia, and Switzerland. India's Look East and Act East policies, along with strengthened engagement with ASEAN, EU, Africa, and Latin America, have expanded trade horizons. India's balance of payments swap in the post-reform period. The balance of payments swap is a systematic record of a country's economic transactions with the rest of the world over a period. It comprises the current account and the capital account. Box situation 3 1991. India faced a series of crises in 1991, with foreign exchange reserves falling to less than 2 weeks of import cover. A high fiscal deficit, heavy import bill, especially oil, and declining remittances led to a sharp current account deficit. This crisis triggered the economic reforms of 1991. BOP trends in the post-reform period current account. Reflects trade in goods, services, income, and transfers. India continues to run a current account deficit, CAD mainly due to merchandise trade deficit, though this is partially offset by surplus in services and private remittances. The CAD has ranged from -0.5% to -4% of GDP, depending on global oil prices and export performance. Capital account. India has seen strong capital inflows, particularly FDI, foreign direct investment, and FDI, foreign portfolio investment. Capital account surplus generally covers the CAD, keeping overall BOP manageable. NRI deposits, ECBs, external commercial borrowings, and sovereign bonds are other significant components. Foreign exchange reserves have increased from $5.8 billion in 1991 to over $600 billion in 2023, providing a strong buffer against external shocks. Volatility. Mob pressures emerged during global uncertainties like the 2008 financial crisis, taper tantrum in 2013, or COVID-19 pandemic. Capital account surplus generally covers the CAD, keeping overall BOP manageable. NRI deposits, ECBs, external commercial borrowings, and sovereign bonds are other significant components. Foreign exchange reserves have increased from $5.8 billion United States dollars in 1991 to over $600 billion United States dollars in 2023, providing a strong buffer against external shocks. Volatility. Mob pressures emerged during global uncertainties like the 2008 financial crisis, taper tantrum in 2013, or COVID-19 pandemic, but India's improved reserves and capital inflows helped mitigate the effects. Remittances. India is one of the largest recipients of remittances globally, especially from the Gulf and North America, which significantly supports the current account. Government measures and institutional reforms, introduction of export-import policy, exit with periodic reviews. Establishment of institutions like DGFT, Directorate General of Foreign Trade, ECGC, and Exim Bank to support trade. Signing of free trade agreements, FTAs, and comprehensive economic partnership agreements, CEPAs with ASEAN, Japan, South Korea, UAE, etc. Strategic initiatives like Make in India, Digital India, and PLI schemes to boost export-oriented manufacturing. Rupee trade mechanisms are being explored to bypass dollar dependency, especially in times of global currency volatility. Previous year questions. Discuss the changing composition and direction of India's foreign trade since the economic reforms of 1991. Answer. Post-1991, India shifted from primary to value-added exports, diversified its trade partners, and increased service exports. The USA, UAE, China became major partners. CAS 2021. What are the key features of India's balance of payments in the post-reform period? Explain the role of capital flows and remittances. Answer. India's BOP has seen CAS offset by capital account surpluses. Remittances and service exports contribute positively. Forex reserves have grown significantly. CAS 2020. India's foreign trade policy aims at both export promotion and trade diversification. Critically evaluate this dual approach. Answer. The FTP focuses on incentives, infrastructure, FTAs for promotion, while also targeting new markets and products. However, rising import dependence and global competition are challenges. CAS 2018. Let me know if you want the next topic covered in the same style. You said. Economy of Kerala state and overview. Population, major agriculture, industry, service sector issues, infrastructure and resources, major developmental projects, programs and schemes. ChatGPT said. Economy of Kerala, an overview. Kerala, located on the southwestern coast of India, possesses a distinctive socio-economic structure shaped by historical, cultural, and geographical factors. Despite its modest industrial base and limited natural resources, the state has achieved remarkable human development indicators. The Kerala model of development, characterized by high literacy, low infant mortality, and high life expectancy, has drawn global attention. However, the state's economy faces challenges such as low industrialization, high dependence on remittances, and unemployment. In recent decades, the state has diversified into services, tourism, education, and IT, contributing significantly to its economic growth. Population. Kerala's population is around 3.5 crore, 35 million as per recent estimates. It has one of the lowest population growth rates and highest literacy rates in India, near 96%, with gender parity in education. The state also has the highest proportion of elderly population, leading to a rising dependency ratio. Kerala exhibits high levels of urbanization, especially in coastal and central districts, driven by municipal construction and service sector expansion. Major agriculture. Agriculture in Kerala is unique due to its monsoon-dependent, smallholder farming systems and plantation-based economy. Major crops include cash crops, coconut, rubber, spices, pepper, cardamom, ginger, areca nut, and coffee. Food crops. Paddy remains a staple, though its area has declined due to urbanization and lack of profitability. Issues in agriculture include fragmentation of land holdings and low productivity, decline in food grain cultivation, impact of climate change and floods, price volatility of cash crops, labor shortage due to outmigration and preference for non-agricultural employment. Efforts such as organic farming, integrated farming systems, and cooperative marketing have been encouraged under schemes like Karshak Vishwanidhi, Krishi Bhavan reforms, and agri-startups. Industry. Kerala's industrial sector contributes less than the national average to the GSDP. Traditional industries like guar, handloom, cashew, and spices continue to face competition, labor issues, and low technology adoption. Modern industrial development focuses on IT and electronics parks, e.g., Technopark in Tiruvananthapuram, Info Park in Kochi. Pharmaceuticals and rubber-based industries. Food processing and agro-based industries, especially in Malabar and Central Kerala. Key constraints include high cost of land and labor, environmental concerns and protests delaying projects, inadequate power supply and logistics support, labor rigidity in traditional sectors. Industrial promotion schemes include KSIDC initiatives, Startup Mission, Kerala Industrial and Commercial Policy, and KINFRA infrastructure projects. Service sector and issues. The service sector dominates Kerala's economy, contributing nearly 65-70% of the gross state domestic product, GSDP. Key components. Tourism, Ayurveda, backwaters, ecotourism, and heritage attract both domestic and foreign tourists. Education and healthcare, public and private institutions provide high-quality services. IT sector, growing rapidly with investments in Technopark, Infopark, and Cyberpark. Banking and financial services, high financial inclusion and penetration of cooperative banking. Issues include over-reliance on remittances from the Gulf, seasonal and informal employment in tourism, urban congestion and inadequate digital infrastructure in rural areas. Infrastructure and resources. Despite natural limitations, Kerala has developed reasonably good infrastructure. Transport, road density is among the highest in India. Major national highways pass through the state. However, traffic congestion and poor road quality are persistent issues. Airports, 4 international airports, Tiruvananthapuram, Kochi, Kozhikode, and Kannur. Seaports, Kochi Port is a major port with an international container transshipment terminal at Valapattam. Vision Port is under development as a deep water port. Power, energy mix includes hydro, solar, and wind. Dependency on outside sources remains. Water supply and sanitation improves significantly through schemes like Jal Jeevan Mission. Natural resources include minerals like ilmenite, monazite, thorium, and coastal sands, and forest wealth. However, excessive exploitation and urbanization have impacted ecological balance. Major development. Major developmental projects and programs. Kerala has launched several innovative developmental projects aimed at inclusive and sustainable growth. KIIFB, Kerala Infrastructure Investment Fund Board. A flagship funding mechanism for infrastructure projects including roads, bridges, education, and health infrastructure. Rebuild Kerala Initiative. Aimed at reconstruction after the devastating 2018 floods, focusing on climate resilient infrastructure and long-term sustainability. Kerala Fiber Optic Network, KFON. Provides high-speed internet as a basic right, especially targeting rural and marginalized areas. Haritha Keralam. Environmental protection through organic farming, water conservation, and waste management. Life Mission. Housing for the homeless and economically vulnerable sections. Kerala Startup Mission, KSUM. Promotes innovation and entrepreneurship among youth. Gender budgeting and Kudu Mission. Empowering women through microenterprises and social development. E-governance projects. Includes e-health, e-district, and digitization of land records. Mission 1000 days. Focus on maternal and child health, nutrition, and early childhood education. Navigral Mission. A comprehensive program integrating education, health, agriculture, and housing reforms launched after LDS return in 2021. Challenges ahead. Unemployment. Despite high education levels, Kerala has one of the highest unemployment rates, especially among youth and women. Aging population, increased burden on social security and healthcare. Environmental degradation, due to quarrying, deforestation, and urban expansion. Dependency on remittances makes the economy vulnerable to external shocks. Underperformance in manufacturing and exports. Previous year questions. Explain the sectoral composition of Kerala's economy and highlight the major issues faced by the agriculture sector. Answer. Kerala's economy is service-led, with agriculture facing land fragmentation, low returns, and climate-related disruptions. CAS 2022. What are the recent infrastructural and developmental initiatives undertaken in Kerala to boost economic growth? Answer. KIIFB, KFON, Rebuild Kerala, Vision to Port, Life Mission, and Startup Mission are some major projects. CAS 2020. Critically assess the impact of Gulf remittances on the Kerala economy. Answer. Remittances boost income, consumption and housing but create dependency, inflation, and labor shortages in local sectors. CAS 2018. Let me know if you want the next GS2 economy topic, or GS3, or anything else. You said. Co-operative sector. History and relevant policies in traditional industries, IT sector, privacy and foreign remittance. ChatGPT said. Cooperative sector, traditional industries, IT sector, Prabhasi and foreign remittances in Kerala. Lecture notes for CAS officer, junior time scale training stream 1 general studies 2, economy of Kerala. Cooperative sector in Kerala. The cooperative movement in Kerala is among the strongest and most vibrant in India. It has played a pivotal role in the state's socio-economic development by ensuring inclusive growth, particularly in rural and agrarian sectors. The roots of the cooperative movement can be traced back to the Cooperative Societies Act of 1904, which found traction in princely states like Travancore and Cochin. Over time, the movement expanded rapidly, especially after the formation of Kerala in 1956, due to the state's commitment to decentralization and grassroots empowerment. Kerala has over 16,000 cooperative societies across multiple sectors including agriculture, credit, banking, dairy, consumer distribution, housing, and women's empowerment. Institutions like Kerala State Cooperative Bank, and Kerala State Cooperative Marketing Federation (MERKFED) have been instrumental in agricultural support and price stabilization. The Kudu Bashri program, although primarily a self-help group initiative, also uses cooperative principles for women-led economic empowerment. Cooperatives in banking and credit serve as the backbone for rural finance and microcredit. Primary agricultural credit societies, tax urban cooperative banks, and credit cooperatives help improve access to finance. Cooperatives also function in traditional sectors like guar, cashew, handloom, and dairy, promoting collective bargaining and reducing exploitation. Recent policies support cooperative modernization and digital integration, such as the cooperative IT cell, cooperative college, and revamp of auditing standards to improve transparency and accountability. Traditional industries and relevant policies. Kerala's traditional industries, including guar, handloom, cashew, bamboo, pottery, and bell metal, have deep cultural and economic roots. These sectors have historically provided employment to rural and coastal communities, especially women. Guar industry. Kerala is the world leader in guar production. The Guar Board, headquartered in Kochi, oversees quality and innovation. State-level initiatives like the Guar Workers Welfare Fund Board and Guar Kerala Expo promote exports and skill development. Handloom and Khadi, concentrated in districts like Kannur, Thrissur, and Palakkad. Handloom industries receive support through Kerala State Handloom Development Corporation (HANDEV), Khadi and Village Industries Board, and Chennamangala Handloom Clusters. Cashew industry, a major employer in Kollam district. It has faced declining competitiveness due to labor costs and import dependency. The Kerala State Cashew Development Corporation (KSCDC) and CAPEX provide wage support and modernization aid. Policy interventions. Kerala industrial and commercial policy includes specific provisions for traditional industries. The state bamboo mission, Guar policy, and cashew sector revitalization planning and sustainable employment generation and export competitiveness. Schemes like technology upgradation fund and cluster development assist in modernization, marketing, and value addition. Challenges include high labor costs, poor branding, outdated technology, and competition from synthetic substitutes. IT sector in Kerala. Kerala's IT sector is a rising contributor to the GSDP, with a focus on knowledge-based, inclusive, and eco-friendly digital infrastructure. The growth began with the establishment of Technopark in Tirunelveli in 1990, India's first and one of the largest IT parks. Major hubs include Technopark Tirunelveli, Infopark Kochi, Cyberpark Kozhikode. These parks house hundreds of companies ranging from multinational giants to innovative startups. The Kerala Startup Mission (KSUM) has built a strong support ecosystem with incubators, seed funds, and mentorship networks. Kerala is also emerging as a hub for blockchain, artificial intelligence, and machine learning thanks to initiatives like Maker Village and integrated startup complex. Policy supporting IT growth. Kerala IT Policy 2020 focuses on digital inclusion, work from home support, and infrastructure scalability. KFO and Kerala Fiber Optic Network aims to bridge the digital divide by providing affordable high-speed internet across the state. The IT sector in Kerala also emphasizes green computing, decentralization, and rural BPOs, helping reduce urban rural economic gaps. Prabhasi Malayalis and foreign remittances. One of the defining characteristics of Kerala's economy is the contribution of the Malayali diaspora, commonly referred to as Prabhasi Malayalis. Migration, especially to Gulf countries, began on a large scale in the 1970s and remains a cornerstone of the state's socio-economic profile. Key features. As per recent estimates, more than 2.1 million Keralites live abroad. Gulf countries account for over 85% of foreign employment. Remittances to Kerala constitute approximately 20-25% of the state's income, making it the highest remittance receiving state in India. Economic impact of remittances. Fuel the real estate boom, consumer spending, and education. Strengthened household incomes and reduced poverty levels. Help finance social development and entrepreneurial ventures. However, overdependence has led to economic vulnerabilities. Global oil price volatility, globalization policies, and labor nationalization have affected job security. COVID-19 pandemic caused reverse migration, job loss, and reduced remittance inflows. Policy interventions. Department of Non-Resident Kerala Affairs (NORCA) was established to address Prabhasi concerns. NORCA routes offer skill development, legal aid, and rehabilitation support. Prabhasi Welfare Fund, rehabilitation packages, and returning entrepreneurship schemes aim to integrate migrants back into the economy. Prabhasi Dividend Scheme encourages investment of remittances in productive sectors. Conclusion. Kerala's cooperative sector, traditional industries, and IT sector represent pillars of inclusive and participatory development. Remittances from overseas Keralites have historically fueled the state's growth but also necessitate diversification for long-term sustainability. Going forward, balancing traditional strength with innovation, social equity with competitiveness, and economic resilience with ecological sensitivity will be critical for Kerala's progress. Previous year questions. Examine the role of the cooperative sector in Kerala's economic development and its impact on rural employment. Answer. Cooperatives in agriculture, banking, and traditional industries have enabled rural credit, self-reliance, and women empowerment. Kerala Bank, PAX, Kudu Bashri are notable contributors. CAS 2022. Discuss the importance of foreign remittances in Kerala's economy. What challenges do returning migrants face? Answer. Remittances fuel consumption, housing and services, but returning migrants face unemployment, reintegration challenges, and skill mismatch. CAS 2019. Assess the significance of the IT sector in Kerala and highlight major government initiatives to promote the digital economy. Answer. Technopark, KSUM, KFON, and rural BPO policies have promoted decentralized IT growth, entrepreneurship, and digital literacy. CAS 2020. Let me know if you'd like to continue with the next GS2 economy topic or shift to GS3, geography, or another paper. You said. Kerala model development, land reforms, social security, devolution of power, decentralized planning, housing, tourism. ChatGPT said. Kerala model of development. CAS officer, junior time scale, training stream 1 general studies 2, Kerala economy. The Kerala model of development is a globally recognized development paradigm that emphasizes high social development indicators despite moderate economic growth. It is characterized by land reforms, strong public health and education systems, effective social security measures, and participatory governance through decentralization. This model has often been cited as a successful example of achieving human development without rapid industrialization or high per capita income. 1. Land reforms. Land reforms were a cornerstone of Kerala's post-independence development strategy, aiming to dismantle feudal land relations and empower the agrarian population. The reforms began in earnest after the communist government of 1957, leading to the historic Kerala Land Reforms Act 1963 and its subsequent amendments. Major outcomes of land reforms in Kerala. Abolition of feudal landlordism and tenancy. Distribution of surplus land to landless agricultural workers. Security of tenure and ownership rights for tenants. Empowerment of Dalits and marginalized communities. These reforms transformed the agrarian structure, enabled better rural income distribution, and laid the foundation for universal access to education and health, as land security brought social confidence and economic stability. 2. Social security. Kerala has one of the most extensive social security networks in India, encompassing a wide spectrum of the population including the aged, unemployed, women, differently abled, and informal workers. Key initiatives. Welfare pensions for elderly, widows, farmers, and fisherfolk. Social security mission for unified delivery of services. Carney Benevolent Fund for free medical treatment. Support for tribal rehabilitation, disabled welfare, and child protection schemes. These schemes are often directly linked to Panchayati Raj institutions free and benefit from Aadhaar-based transfers and digitized beneficiary tracking, reducing leakage and ensuring timely delivery. 3. Devolution of power and decentralized planning. Kerala is a national pioneer in democratic decentralization through the People's Plan Campaign 1996, which aims to devolve 35 to 40% of the state plan funds to local self-governments. Key elements of decentralization. Empowerment of panchayats, municipalities, and corporations. Planning at the local level through Gram Sabhas and ward-level consultations. Institutionalization of bottom-up budgeting and planning. The Kerala State Planning Board supports this process by ensuring coordination and providing technical support. Decentralization has improved public accountability, efficient resource use, and targeted service delivery in health, education, sanitation, and housing. 4. Housing. Kerala's approach to housing is rooted in the idea of a home for every family, blending state support with community involvement. The Life Mission is Kerala's flagship housing program aimed at providing safe and secure homes to landless and homeless. Other major schemes include AMS Housing Scheme for the Poor, Suraksha Housing Scheme for scheduled castes and tribes, MNREGS assisted housing in rural areas. Kerala has one of the lowest rates of homelessness in India, largely due to land reforms and strong public investment in housing. Community-based approaches through Kudu Bashri and local governments ensure inclusivity. 5. Tourism. Kerala is internationally branded as God's own country, and tourism has become a significant contributor to the state economy, employment, and cultural promotion. Major aspects of Kerala's tourism development focus on ecotourism, heritage tourism, and responsible tourism. Successful models like Kumarakam Responsible Tourism Project linking local economy with tourism. Promotion of Ayurveda, wellness tourism, and medical tourism. Development of infrastructure such as international airports, backwater cruises, and homestays. Tourism accounts for about 10-12% of Kerala's employment and has been pivotal in women's empowerment, artisan promotion, and revival of traditional arts and crafts. However, the sector is sensitive to natural disasters like floods and global factors like pandemics necessitating sustainable practices and diversification. Kerala model, achievements and challenges. Achievements. Highest literacy rate 96.2%, lowest infant mortality rate, and high life expectancy. Near universal access to primary education and public health care. Gender development and women's participation are relatively higher. Strong civil society participation, media literacy, and awareness. Challenges. Slower industrial growth and private investment inflow. High unemployment, especially educated youth. Overdependence on remittances, leading to vulnerability. Environmental concerns, especially from urban expansion, sand mining, and climate events. Rising non-communicable diseases and aging population. Kerala now seeks to balance its social development model with economic diversification, investment in knowledge economy, green energy, and value-added agriculture. Previous year questions. Explain how land reforms contributed to the success of the Kerala model of development. Answer. Land reforms abolished feudal structures, redistributed land to the poor, and empowered rural communities, enabling equitable access to education, healthcare, and housing. CAS 2018. What is the role of decentralized planning in the success of Kerala's development model? Answer. Through the People's Plan campaign, Kerala enabled bottom-up planning, ensured efficient fund utilization, and empowered local governments, making development participatory and targeted. CAS 2022. Discuss the contribution of the tourism sector to Kerala's economic growth and social development. Answer. Tourism has enhanced employment, promoted cultural heritage, and integrated local communities through responsible tourism practices, contributing to inclusive growth. CAS 2020. Let me know if you'd like to proceed with the next GS to economy topic or shift to another subject paper. You said. Women empowerment, social welfare schemes. ChatGPT said. Women empowerment and social welfare schemes in India and Kerala. CAS officer, junior time scale, training stream 1, general studies 2, economy and social development. Women empowerment refers to the process of increasing the capacity of women to make choices and transform those choices into desired actions and outcomes. In India, women's empowerment is seen as a crucial component of inclusive development and social justice. It encompasses economic, political, educational, and health-related dimensions. To this end, both the union and state governments, particularly Kerala, have introduced numerous social welfare schemes targeting women's well-being, dignity, and self-reliance. 5 dimensions of women empowerment: economic empowerment, enhancing women's participation in the workforce, access to skill training, credit, entrepreneurship, and financial independence, support for women in agriculture, micro-enterprises, and cooperatives, educational empowerment, focus on universal enrollment, reducing dropout rates, and promoting higher education among girls, scholarship schemes in residential schools for girls from marginalized communities, health and nutrition, maternal and child health programs, reproductive rights, menstrual health awareness, and nutritional support, prevention of female feticide and anemia, political empowerment, 33% reservation for women in local self-governance under the 73rd and 74th Amendments, encouragement for women in political parties and legislative assemblies, legal empowerment, protection under laws such as the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act, 2005, Dowry Prohibition. Protection under laws such as the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act, 2005, Dowry Prohibition Act, 1961, Harassment at Workplace Act, 2013, etc. 2. Key national schemes for women empowerment: Bedding Chow, Bedding Cat Out, 2015. Objective: prevent female feticide, ensure survival and education of the girl child. Focus on changing societal attitudes and improving child sex ratio. Pradhan Mantri Matru Bandhana Yojana, PMMBY. A maternity benefit scheme offering Rs. 5,000 for the first child to ensure proper nutrition and health of mother and child. Ujjwala Yojana. Provides free LPG connections to women below poverty line, aiming at reducing indoor air pollution and improving health. Mahila Shakti Kendra. Provides one-stop convergence support services for women empowerment at the village level. Working Women Hostels, Swadhar Gray, Step Support to Training and Employment Program, and National Crash Scheme are other initiatives promoting safety, livelihood, and dignity of women. Nari Shakti Puraskar and Sri Shakti Puraskar to recognize achievements of women. 3. Women-centric welfare and empowerment in Kerala. Kerala is a leader in women's empowerment, showing superior indicators in literacy, life expectancy, and maternal health, and fostering gender development through proactive policies and grassroots movements. 1. Kudambashri Mission, 1998. Flagship poverty eradication and women empowerment program of Kerala. Comprises a network of neighborhood groups, NHGs, managed by women. Promotes microfinance, collective farming, entrepreneurship, and social development. Widely regarded as one of the largest and most successful women's self-help networks in Asia. 2. Gender budgeting and gender parks. Kerala introduced gender budgeting in 2008 to allocate funds with a gender perspective. Gender parks, a first of its kind initiative in Kori Code, promote research, innovation, and entrepreneurship among women. 3. She Taxi and Pink Police Patrol. She Taxi, an all-women taxi service ensuring income and safety for women drivers and passengers. Pink Police Patrol, law enforcement unit for women's safety in public spaces. 4. Social welfare pensions and protection. Elderly women, widows, single mothers, and differently able women receive welfare pensions. Nearby project ensures support for victims of gender-based violence. IB. Challenges to women empowerment, patriarchal mindset, and cultural resistance to gender equality. Low female labor force participation rate, LFPR, especially in urban areas. Violence against women, domestic abuse, trafficking, and workplace harassment. Digital divide and underrepresentation in leadership roles. Persistent gender pay gap and lack of asset ownership. Despite progressive legal frameworks and schemes, deep-rooted structural inequalities continue to hinder full empowerment of women. The path forward. Strengthening gender-sensitive governance and ensuring gender audits of public services. Promotion of STEM education, digital literacy, and leadership training among girls. Expand women-led cooperatives and MSMEs with easier access to finance. Enhance social protection nets for widows, victims of violence, and the informal workforce. Invest in childcare and support infrastructure to facilitate women's participation in the workforce. Previous year questions. Discuss the role of Kudambashri in promoting women empowerment in Kerala. Answer. Kudambashri has empowered women through microfinance, self-employment, and community participation, creating a social safety net and leadership platform for women. CAS 2022. What are the major initiatives taken by the government of India to improve the status?